Google Pest Control Marketer. Grow your business like never before. Call 770-993-0004.
Well, hello, folks. This is Hal Coleman here, the Pest Control Marketer. Excuse me, with a little frog in my throat this morning. Welcome to the second episode of Pest Control Marketing Live, the only live streaming internet TV show totally dedicated to you, the PCOs and WCOs. I'm excited about the show. I'm here again with my compadre, my mentor, my business partner, and longtime friend, the Ed McMahon of Pest Control Marketing TV, Mike Stewart, better known as Mr. Online. How you doing today, Mike?
I'm doing great. I love what live streaming can do for businesses, and we're trailblazing the path for PCOs and WCOs that having an online TV show, and our goal is to help people make more money, get more leads, and do what it takes to succeed in these crazy times.
Yep, and we're going to have some good stuff for you today, as always. This is so much fun. You know, we're doing this every 2 weeks, and to me, it's like I'm going to spending an hour fishing or something, and then I know I'm not going to get to do it again for 2 weeks. I could do this every day. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Get great comments. And, you know, what I wanted to do today, Mike, is I want to come up each time with what I call stupiding marketing blunders. And I've got a stupid marketing, I wish I could say it, a stupid marketing blunder to share with you and our viewers today, an offline blunder. And I hope you have a stupid online blunder too. Mine goes back a few years. There was a small hardware store in my town, and I used to go there and, buy a few things. It was kind of a cool place to hang out. The owner was one of these hard-headed guys who knows everything and not interested in learning anything. And one day I was in there and I was buying something, and I said, "How's business?" He said, "It's slow." He said, and now he sits right on the road, and not back far away. The place has been there for years. He said, hundreds of people drive right past me every day and go to Home Depot because they think they can buy it cheaper at Home Depot. But he said, "I sell stuff cheaper than Home Depot does." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, not everything, but," he said, "most things I sell, you can buy it here cheaper than Home Depot." And I said, "Well, did these people driving past you every day going to Home Depot, do they know that?" He said, "Well, if they'd stop in here, they would." I said, "Why would they stop in here if they're going to buy something and they think they can get it cheaper at Home Depot?" I said, "Why don't you just put a little sign up out front that says cheaper than Home Depot?" He said, "Well, that might work." I said, "Might work?" I said, "Just get a little real estate sign, put mine a cardboard, stick it up right there on the roadside. It says cheaper than Home Depot. And those people, a lot of them will stop in here to check you out, and you can sell them some of your goods." He said, "Well, that might work." He said, "That sounds like probably a good idea." Well, he stayed in business for another 2 or 3 years, finally went out of business. Never once put a sign up out in front of that place saying cheaper than Home Depot. What a no-brainer. I mean, I'm like, holy smokes. But, a lot of people are like that. And that's what we deal with, Mike, you and I, is that we give people good ideas and they don't take action. So to me, that was a stupid marketing blunder that guy made, and it wouldn't have cost him but a few dollars, and he would have gotten a lot of new customers. So how about you? Have you got one to share with us?
Yeah, I remember this is my online blunder discussion I had one time, and it's all about, folks don't know what they don't know. I have one little thing. I used to have a sign company that said a business with no sign is a sign of no business. I used to love that phrase.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. But my stupid blunder that cracked me up years ago is I was at a networking meeting and I was trying to tell folks about the importance of having a website. And this business owner, who remained nameless, said, he says, I've got a website. And I said, well, are you getting a lot of visitors to your website? We call that traffic. And he said, oh yeah, I'm number one in Google. I said, you're number one in Google? And he said, oh, I'm number one in Google and Yahoo. I'm number one in all the search engines. And I said, well, man, tell me, what did you do to get number one for your business in all these big search engines at the top of the page? He says, you type my domain name or you type my web address in Google. And he said, I'm right there at the top every time. And I said, I didn't have the heart to tell him, everybody is number one for their web address. That's nothing to be impressed about. If you're not number one for your web address, then there's something wrong. And what his blunder was, he didn't realize that people aren't, if they know your web address, they don't need to search you. You have to be number one for search terms. So his marketing blunder was thinking he was doing well with his website when in reality he was not doing very well.
He was. I still make marketing blunders, Mike, and I assume you do too. We have done many projects through the years, and for the last few years, we just focus on the pest control market. I'm in my 47th year now, I think, in the pest control industry. So been around a long time, and it's the industry that I love. And you and I started doing marketing projects for pest control operators quite a few years ago now. And that's what we focus on together. But we've had projects that we came up with that we thought were good ideas, and we really couldn't get them off the ground. And we would move on, and we would come back sometimes years later and look at it and realize the marketing blunder that we made that caused it to not be successful. The thing about it is, folks, and I think maybe it was Dan Kennedy, one of the greatest marketers of all time, he said, 9 out of 10 things you come up with won't work. But he said, you're going to get one thing out of those 10 things that'll end up being a game changer. And he said, if you try 1,000 things, you'll come up with 100 things that work. And that's what you and I have done through the years, not only with ourselves, but with our clients. And I did with my pest control company, is testing, all kind of things. So when we tell somebody something works, it's one of those 100 things that we've already found and that simply work for anybody that does it. So that's one reason that we're able to help people, is because we're not experimenting with companies. We're just using tested and proven strategies to teach our clients.
Well, and a lot of those things that you experienced over the years with your pest control agency, you wrote in your book, How to Grow a Pest Control Business. And I invite everybody listening and watching to be sure, you can actually Google, you can make the marketing blogger and Google how to grow a pest control business.com. And we're number one in the world.
Number one for that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And Hal will give you, there's hundreds of suggestions in there, absolutely free. All we ask for in exchange is for you to give us your name and email, and then you'll get an instant download of that. So at any rate.
You also get not only the download, but then I will send you guidance tips for that book to help walk you through that book and further explain things in that book. So you're going to get the most mileage out of the book because you're going to have me walking you through the thing in emails. And I hear from people every week that say how much that book has helped them and how much my guidance has helped them with it. So download it, folks. It's free. You don't have anything to lose.
Absolutely. Well, we've got 2 more segments of this show. We've got today's subject, which is the Yellow Pages story, which I can't wait for you to tell that story. And then we'll take a few questions. So why don't we have a word from our sponsor, and then we'll come back with the Yellow Pages story, unless you got anything else you want to add.
Before we do that, let me tell you, if you just heard Mike say Yellow Pages, and you do like some people say, oh, I don't want to hear about the Yellow Pages, I want to hear about the internet. Well, the only thing the Yellow Pages was today's website, today's internet. So every single thing they're going to learn in the Yellow Page story, just strike out the word Yellow Pages in your mind and put website. And it's exactly the same. So I just want you to think about that before we start talking about the Yellow Pages. We're not really talking about Yellow Pages. We're talking about websites.
Well, it was the Yellow Pages story.
Yeah.
And if we had said this was a website story, it probably wouldn't have stood out. But anyway, we'll be right back after this word from our sponsor.
Hey folks, it's Hal here, and I want to tell you about my personal coaching program designed specifically for PCOs and WCOs who want to grow their businesses faster, easier, and build more value and wealth for your future retirement. To find out more, simply give me a call at 770-993-0004, and I'll treat you to a free 1-hour coaching session so you can see for yourself what I do and how I can help you. There's no obligation and no strings attached.
Google Pest Control, marketer, grow your business like never before. Call 770-993-0004.
All right.
Hey, you're back here at Pest Control Marketing Live. Now, remember, you can watch this show at 9 o'clock Eastern, second and fourth Mondays of every month. We're going to be here. Tell other friends in Facebook and YouTube. But, the address we want you to be sure to watch it, and you can interact with us because we're going to take some questions here in a minute, is at pestcontrolmarketing.live. So just Google that address. You'll see that we're number one in the world for that address. But Hal, I'm going to get out of here and let you tell everybody about what I call the Yellow Pages story.
Well, it's an interesting story. And, I had my pest control business for 18 years, and I was in the Yellow Pages that whole time. We talked about this last time, and the reason I'm telling the Yellow Page story in detail today is because we got requests to tell it. So I was in the Yellow Pages, started out with a little fourth of a page ad. I think it was $446 a month, and I was making a killing off of it in 1990 and 91, 92. Bell South Yellow Pages, the only Yellow Page book. Everybody was in there. There was no internet. And then another Yellow Page book came out called the Yellow Book. So now there was some competition there. And then another Yellow Page book came out maybe a year or two later. I think it was called Lanier Publishing maybe, but in my area it was another Yellow Page book. And then people start mumbling about Al Gore inventing the internet. So we realized that was going to be some competition too. But bottom line, my Yellow Page guy would contact me every year. And about the second year or so, he said, "How's it going?" I said, "Well, I'm not getting as much business as I was." He looked at my ad. He said, "Well, you need to put color in your ad." He said, our statistics show that if you add color, it'll get you more calls. I said, "Well, okay, we'll add color to it." Of course, that adds the price. So the next year, how are things going? Well, it seems to just, not getting as much as I used to. He said, "Well, you need a bigger ad's what you need." I said, "Okay." So I went to a bigger ad. I went to a full page ad and with color. Price is getting on up there now. So, this went on for a few years. Then the internet is rocking and rolling, and everything's going online. And one day I said, the Yellow Pages, I don't know if I want to stay in it. I'm just not getting much from it. He said, "Well, you ought to go to a double truck ad." I said, "What's that?" He said, "That's both pages. You open up the phone book and you're on both pages." So I said, "Well, color, double truck." And he said, "We need to do a little redesign also." Okay. So we redesigned, we added more color, we added better graphics. We got a double truck ad. Now I was paying $74,000 a year for that ad. It was in another small town above me, and so I really had in two books. $74,000 a year is what I was paying for Yellow Pages. All of a sudden, I get introduced to direct response marketing through Larry Latimer and Dan Kennedy, and I get into this whole world of psychological and hypnotic writing and sales letters and calls to action. And I began to see this world of advertising and marketing I had no clue of. So I bought a marketing package. I think I paid $2,500 for a marketing package to teach me all of this stuff. And there was ads in there for all kind of things, but there was a pest control ad in there too. And as I did a little research, I think this guy that had this package probably paid Dan Kennedy about $50,000 to write these ads and design them. And this pest control ad was a half-page ad, it had no color. It was just black ink on yellow pages. And it just had one graphic on it, really, and that was the guy's face, a nice headshot of this guy up in the upper left-hand corner. So I started editing that ad to make it fit my company, but I used the same format. I just changed it around. It had testimonials. Well, I had to get my own testimonials from clients, but I had 3 testimonials and worked on this ad. And so when my Yellow Page ad rep came around the next year, said, how's it going? I said, well, I'm changing everything this time. I'm going to do something drastic. He said, what's that? I said, I showed him the ad. I said, I'm going to put this ad in the Yellow Pages. And he looked at it. He said, you're kidding me, right? I said, no, I'm not kidding. He said, really? You want to put this? This is not an ad. He said, this is like an article or something. I said, I know. He said, Hal, you can't put this in the Yellow Pages. I said, why not? He said, well, to start with, nobody's going to read this thing. It's long. And he said, the print's too small. I said, you don't think they can read it? No, they can't read it. I said, well, I checked it. I said, it's the same size as the print in the newspaper. And it's the same size print as in my magazine articles I read. And I said, it's bigger than the print in the Bible. And I know people read those things. So he said, he just rolled his eyes and shook his head. And he said, look, Hal, I've been doing this for 26 years. And he said, I'm telling you, you might as well flush your, this is what he said. He said, you might as well flush your money down the toilet rather than mess with putting this ad in the Yellow Pages. He said, it just won't work. I said, well, I'm going to put it in there just like it is, word for word. So he sent it, he took it. And a few days later, I get a proof back from the art department. They had deleted about 3/4 of what I had and made everything else big and turned it back into more of a Yellow Page ad. And I said, nope. So at that time, I didn't really know how to put it in a PDF format or anything, but I took it to my printer and he formatted the PDF where they couldn't change it. So I gave it to the Yellow Page guy and I said, we're going to put this ad in there or I'm not doing business with you anymore. So they ran the ad. You know, I'm sitting there with my fingers crossed, hoping this is not just going to be a 1-year-long money pit, you know, because you can't go in and change your Yellow Page ad like you can your website. So when that book came out over that next year, my return on my investment went up a little over 300% from that ad. Now, I think it was like 303% because I tracked all of this stuff with the Yellow Pages. So actually the half-page black ink on yellow and no color got me almost the same amount of business as the big double truck ad did. So I'm saving a ton of money and I'm getting just as much business. Now, here's another good thing about that ad. When people called me, you know, the tire kickers call and they're price shopping and they're jacking you around. And I didn't get any of those calls anymore from the Yellow Pages because my ad answered every possible question that anybody could have about pest control. And at the beginning, right under my headline, it said, attention, it said, if you're not willing to pay slightly more money for the absolute best service, don't bother reading the rest of this ad. So the tire kickers already knew that I was more expensive than other people, which I was. I was the most expensive pest control company in town. So the tire kickers quit calling me. The other people would call, and instead of asking a lot of questions, they would just say, yeah, I need you to come out and get rid of some ants. I'd say, well, how'd you hear about us? I found you in the Yellow Pages. And I got a lot of comments like, that's a real interesting ad you have in there. I said, yeah, it is, isn't it? But so the next year when my Yellow Page guy came around, walked in, we sat down in my office. He said, how's it going? And I just looked at him with a straight face and I said, I just want to reach over there and knock you flat on your butt. He said, why? I said, because I've been listening to you for 15 years and you've been telling me to add all this color and do all this stuff. I said, and I tracked my Yellow Page stuff religiously. I had a coupon in there that I could track. And I said, according to my calculations, I've done approximately $850,000 worth of business I've gotten from the Yellow Pages over the last 15 years. He said, well, that's great. I said, yeah, I thought it was great. But I said, then I put this ad in here that you ridiculed me for. You told me I was an idiot. You told me I'd be better off to flush my money down the toilet. I said, so I listened to you all these years, but I didn't listen to you when you told me that. I said, I got this ad, I put it in there. You told me I was stupid, and my return on my investment has gone up a little over 300%. And he's just like, really? I said, yes. And I said, now I calculated it up. If I'd have had this ad in the Yellow Pages for all those 15 years, and I was getting a 300% more return on my investment, I said, the way I look at it, I said, you have cost me approximately $2.4 million over the last 15 years. That's what you've cost me by me listening to you. And he said, well, how would I have known all of that stuff? I said, you wouldn't know it, because I said, I have spent thousands of dollars and read books and books and books and gone to marketing workshops to learn this stuff, to learn how to write an ad. I said, you know how to sell one thing really well. And I said, that's Yellow Page ads. You really do. You're a great salesman. And I said, you don't have a clue how to sell a product. You don't know. He said, I'm speechless. I said, well, that's it. I said, I'm really upset by what I've learned. And so, it was maybe a year, 6 months or a year after that, an opportunity came up for me to sell my pest control business and go into coaching full time. That was about 13 years ago. So I did. I just said, I've done this business for 18 years. I started out with one man with a spray can. I've built $1 million business, and I'm going to get out of this and just coach and teach people what I've learned, because they need to know this stuff. But that's the Yellow Page story. Now, when I built my website, in the beginning, you built my website for me, and we didn't know a lot of this stuff back then. But then we began to learn more and more about direct response. So you began helping people sell millions of dollars worth of products on the internet. You still do. And I took everything I learned from that Yellow Page ad, all about those response triggers, those psychological response, the words, phrases, graphics, even punctuation that trigger that buying response in people's brain and cause them to choose you to do business with, and all in the proper sequence, like we talked about last time. Here's who I am. Here's what I've got. Here's what it'll do for you. Here's how you get it. Here's when you buy it now. It's got to all be in that sequence. If it's not, people get confused in their head, and their subconscious has too many questions that aren't answered. So they get into a state of what's known as cognitive dissonance. They just don't know what to do. So they don't do anything. And that's what most ads do, is they create cognitive dissonance. Most sales presentations do that too. And if you've ever had anybody say to you, well, I need to think about it. I just, sounds good, but I need to think about it. I need to call a few more companies. You know that you're screwed up. You got them into a state of cognitive dissonance, and they couldn't choose you. They wanted to. If they had you out there, they've already made the decision to buy pest control or wildlife control, and they really want to choose. They want to find an easy person that helps them solve this problem, but you blow it when you don't keep things in the proper sequence. So if you look at my website, pestcontrolmarketer.com, that's just an example of direct response marketing, all in the proper sequence, and it's worked real well for me. And so when you want to have your website designed, you don't want it to be just all about the graphics. And a lot of web designers, that's what they're all about, is a pretty website. But they don't understand anything about psychological buying response triggers. And so we see a lot of people spending a ton of money to drive traffic to a website that's not going to convert many people into customers. So that's the Yellow Page story. Just take the word Yellow Pages out and make it about website. Everything applies exactly the way it did to the Yellow Pages.
Well, I heard Dan Kennedy years ago at a conference, and he said the internet is nothing more than print or direct mail, mostly print, like the Yellow Pages was, electronically. So in other words, people are still the same. They still respond the same way for thousands of years. In fact, when I started learning internet marketing and I was going to conferences, I was recommended to read a 100-year-old book called Scientific Advertising by Claude Hopkins. And that book was written in the 1800s about direct mail. And one of the guys from the stage, he said, everywhere it says mail or direct mail or send it in the post office, he said, substitute website. And that's one of the things that web designers struggle with. Web designers majority of them come from advertising, branding, and graphics design background. And don't get me wrong, there is a need for good-looking graphics, good-looking. Don't have unprofessional photography. Don't have an amateurish-looking logo. Don't make your videos so bad visually and audio. In other words, we're not talking about bad production. We're talking about creating the perfect direct response marketing message. One of my mentors said, a confused mind always says no. And so that's why look at your website. And does a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old understand what you're offering and why you stand out from your competition? And so the main thing of it is the message is what Dan Kennedy and all the direct response marketers, that you need a message that gets a direct response. Dan Kennedy was quoted one time saying, he said, you can't afford to be a brand at first. You will build branding over time, but what you've got to do is you've got to get people responding and buying from you. So I can't believe it, Hal. We're almost out of time. We got time for a few questions, and we got a great question here from Stephen, which I'm going to throw up here for you, Hal. He says, you mentioned reading books on marketing. Which books do you recommend? I recommended one just tonight. Any websites or blogs or podcasts? Well, obviously the podcast to listen to is Pest Control Marketing Podcast.
Absolutely.
But what books were you referring to when you mentioned those books a moment ago?
Well, one of the first books I read about direct response marketing was written by Dan Kennedy, and it was called The Ultimate Sales Letter. That's one of the very first books I read. I think Larry Latimer actually gave me that book out of his library. He said, go read this. And I read it, and that one book just kind of made it all come to life about why people buy. Here's how you put together a sales letter or an ad that makes people pick up the phone and call you. So that's the first one I would recommend. Dan Kennedy has written a lot of good books, and Guerrilla Marketing is another good book to start out with. And then I get in, other books like The Science of Influence and Sales Stampede and other books that you're probably not ready for yet. But start out with The Ultimate Sales Letter by Dan Kennedy. That one book will give you ideas that you'll use for the rest of your life if you never read anything else. And another great one is How to Grow a Pest Control Business by Hal Coleman, and you can get that one free. Can't beat the price there. Just go to howtogrowapestcontrolbusiness.com and download your book. And Mike, also, I know we got to get out of here, but if anybody would like to have a free conversation with me, all they have to do is give me a call at 770-993-0004, and we'll set up a 1-hour session. I'll send you a questionnaire to fill out about your business and your marketing and how you advertise, and Take you about 10 minutes to fill it out and get it back to me, and then we'll spend an hour together, and that way I don't have to spend that whole hour asking you all these questions. I'll already have the answers to them, and I've already done my homework on your behalf, and you'll come away from the call with some powerful information to help you take your business to the next level. We'll have already identified it, and we'll go over it. We'll show you a lot of low-hanging fruit, and it won't cost you one penny. There's no obligation. I'm not going to try to talk you into anything. If you want to know about my coaching program, I'll be happy to tell you about it. And I know you do the same thing, don't you?
Absolutely, Hal. Just you can go to Pest Control Marketing .live, or you can actually call me at 770-826-3662, and we can do a little one-on-one session reviewing your website and talking about, are your response triggers there, and and I go over what I call my 13 steps to local domination. It's one thing to get found. It's another thing for what people find. But you know what, Hal? We try to keep these shows to 30 minutes. We got people here live. This is your last chance. If you got a question, you can throw that question up right now, and Hal will answer it. Otherwise, I think we're going to need to get out of here in a second.
We are, and if you can't think of your question now, we'll see you in 2 weeks. At the same time, 9 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, for the next episode of Pest Control Marketing .live.
Hal Coleman has been active in the pest control industry for over 40 years, including owning and operating his own successful pest control business for 18 years. He now devotes his time to helping other PCOs and other WCOs double, triple, and even quadruple their businesses faster than they ever imagined. Be sure to check out his website, pestcontrolmarketer.com. For more information about Hal's coaching program, you can reach him at 770-993-0004 or email him hal@halcoleman.com. Mike Stewart is known as the Internet audio and video guy. Since the birth of the Internet, Mike has been showing small business owners how to get more new customers, increase their sales, and grow their businesses online using audio and video, now with iPhones and Android phones. For more information about Mike's coaching program and his online training courses, visit MikeStewartCoaching.com or email him mike@internetaudioguide.com.
Google Pest Control Marketer. Grow your business like never before. Call 770-993-0004.